Awakening to the hidden self is the beginning of the most profound inner journey a human being can take. It is the point where the surface identity, the version of you that has been shaped by society, family, and expectations, begins to tremble under the quiet pressure of something deeper, something ancient and alive. Beneath the familiar roles you play, the responsible one, the achiever, the caretaker, the believer, the rebel, there exists another layer of being, untouched by performance and social conditioning. This is your hidden self, the reservoir of everything you have forgotten, denied, or never dared to explore. It contains your unexpressed emotions, your buried desires, your natural instincts, your undeveloped talents, and the memories of your soul's longing. To awaken to this self is not a sudden event, but a slow unfolding, like dawn breaking after a long night. For most of life, we live outwardly, guided by the persona, the social mask Jung described as the face we show to the world. This mask is not false, it is necessary. It allows us to function, to belong, and to navigate the demands of society. But over time, we begin to mistake the mask for the whole of who we become trapped in roles, measuring our worth through approval, success, or conformity. Beneath this polished surface, however, the hidden self waits. It calls in whispers, through dissatisfaction, restlessness, or the faint ache of emptiness even when everything seems fine. When you feel that strange gap between what you are doing and who you feel you could be, that is the voice of the hidden self beginning to stir. Awakening often begins with discomfort. Life itself becomes the messenger of the unconscious. You may find yourself losing interest in things that once excited you, questioning beliefs you once held as absolute, or feeling strangely detached from your own routines. Relationships may shift, careers may lose meaning, or a quiet yearning may rise for something you cannot yet name. Many resist this phase, mistaking it for confusion or crisis, but it is actually the soul's way of signaling readiness. The hidden self does not awaken through force, it awakens through truth, when the outer life can no longer contain the inner calling. Jung believed that the unconscious seeks integration, that everything we repress eventually finds a way to surface. This emergence can happen gently through reflection and introspection, or dramatically through life events that break the illusion of control. The breakdown of certainty is not a punishment, but an invitation. It is as if life removes the false structures that once gave you identity, so that you can meet the truth beneath them. Pain, loss, or failure can become sacred turning points, the moments when the hidden self finally finds room to breathe. The ego sees these moments as endings, but the soul recognizes them as beginnings. To awaken to the hidden self, you must learn to listen, not with logic or intellect, but with presence. The hidden self speaks in symbols, dreams, intuitions, synchronicities, and emotions. It communicates through the language of the unconscious. When you start paying attention to your dreams, noticing recurring patterns in your experiences, or feeling strong emotional reactions without clear reasons, you are beginning to sense its presence. The hidden self is not distant. It is the part of you that has been waiting patiently behind the noise of your daily mind. When you slow down, when you turn inward, you begin to feel its quiet pulse, a knowing that feels older than you. Our thoughts. This awakening is not always peaceful. It can stir confusion, fear, or even resistance. The mind, accustomed to control, wants to categorize and explain everything. But the hidden self cannot be tamed by logic. It must be experienced. You may feel divided, one part of you longing for truth and another clinging to familiarity. This inner conflict is natural. It is the friction between the old self, built on conditioning, and the new awareness emerging from within. If you stay with it, if you do not run back into distraction or denial, something begins to shift. You start to realize that what you've been avoiding is not darkness but depth. The hidden self contains not only your pain but your purpose. As you awaken, you may also begin to see the patterns of your life differently. What once seemed like random suffering now appears as a map of meaning. You notice that every disappointment, every rejection, every failure was shaping you, preparing you to meet yourself. The people who challenged or hurt you were mirrors reflecting parts of you that needed attention. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, was a message from the hidden self, guiding you toward wholeness. Awakening, then, is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you have always been beneath the layers of fear and adaptation. The hidden self also holds your creative power, the raw, unfiltered energy that fuels authenticity. When you awaken to it, inspiration begins to flow more freely. You may find yourself drawn to art, writing, nature, or solitude, not for escape, but for connection. The need for approval weakens because your fulfillment no longer depends on external validation. You begin to live more intuitively, trusting your inner compass rather than the world's noise. This shift from outer control to inner alignment is the true sign of awakening. However, awakening is not an endpoint, it is a threshold. Once you have glimpsed the hidden self, the next stage naturally arises: confrontation. Awareness alone is not enough. The moment you see your hidden depths, you must face them. This is where courage becomes essential, because not everything within is comfortable to witness. The hidden self contains your wounds as well as your wisdom. It carries the repressed emotions, unhealed traumas, and forgotten parts of your past that were buried for survival. Awakening brings them to light, not to punish you, but to free you. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This means that awakening is not about escaping pain, but meeting it with awareness. It's about turning toward what you once feared and seeing it clearly. Every emotion you once resisted, anger, sadness, jealousy, fear, becomes a doorway. Behind each lies a truth about who you are and what you need. By acknowledging these emotions without judgment, you begin to reclaim your power from the unconscious. The more you awaken, the more life becomes a dialogue between your outer experiences and your inner world. You begin to live symbolically, seeing meaning in coincidences, dreams, and emotional responses. You start recognizing that everything happening around you mirrors something within you. This perspective changes everything. Problems become lessons, conflicts become mirrors, losses become revelations. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But what is this trying to show me? This shift in perception marks the deepening of your relationship with the hidden self. As this relationship matures, fear begins to dissolve. You realize that the hidden self was never truly hidden, only unseen because you were looking outward. What you feared as darkness reveals itself as the source of light. The same emotions that once overwhelmed you now become sources of strength. Your vulnerability transforms into compassion, your wounds into wisdom. You begin to sense a greater intelligence within, something guiding you, not from above, but from within. This awakening is sacred. It reconnects you to your authenticity, your intuition, and your soul's rhythm. You start to live less reactively and more consciously. You no longer chase meaning outside of yourself because you have found it within. The outer world still challenges you, but it no longer defines you. You feel anchored in your inner truth, and that truth gives you quiet confidence and peace. And yet, this awakening naturally leads to the next step: confrontation. For awakening alone is only awareness. The real transformation happens when you dare to face what the hidden self reveals. To awaken is to open the door. To confront is to step through it. The first brings light, the second brings integration. The journey continues inward, where layer of self, once feared, becomes a source of power. Thus, awakening to the hidden self is not a final revelation, but the invitation to begin. It is the soul whispering, "You are more than you think you are." It is the moment you stop searching outward and start listening inward. It is the beginning of remembering. Remembering that the treasure you have been seeking has always been buried within your own depths, and only by turning toward that inner world can you discover the profound gift of becoming who you truly are. Confronting the hidden self is the second step in this profound journey, and it naturally follows awakening. Once you have sensed that something deeper exists within you, the hidden self stirring beneath the layers of your persona, the next challenge is to face it directly. This confrontation is not about judgment or suppression. It is about courageously turning inward to meet the parts of yourself you have long ignored, denied, or feared. It is the moment when the whisper of the hidden self grows into a voice you cannot ignore, calling you to encounter both your light and your shadow with honesty and clarity. The hidden self contains everything that has been repressed, forgotten, or hidden from conscious awareness. It carries your unresolved emotions, unexpressed desires, forgotten dreams, and even your darkest fears. Confrontation means acknowledging these elements without running away. It requires a willingness to see yourself as you truly are, not as you wish to appear or as the world expects you to be. Often this process brings discomfort because the ego is protective. It wants to maintain control and keep the familiar patterns intact. But confrontation is necessary because transformation cannot occur until what is unconscious is brought to light. This step is deeply tied to awakening because the awareness gained in the first stage allows you to recognize the need for confrontation. Awakening is the recognition that something is hidden. Confrontation is the deliberate choice to engage with it. The more fully you awaken, the more clearly you see the aspects of yourself that demand attention. You may notice recurring patterns in your life, behaviors, relationships, or emotions that seem to repeat. And these are often reflections of unresolved material within your hidden self. By confronting them, you begin to understand the unconscious motivations that have guided your actions, sometimes against your conscious intentions. Confrontation often requires patience and honesty. It involves asking yourself difficult questions. Why do I feel fear in certain situations? Why do I react with anger or resentment? Which parts of myself have I denied in order to be accepted or safe? These questions are not meant to provoke guilt, but to reveal understanding. Each emotion, each suppressed impulse, is a message from your inner world, signaling what needs acknowledgement. Jung emphasized that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Confrontation is the conscious engagement with that darkness, which is a necessary step toward integration and empowerment. Meeting your hidden self also means facing the shadow, the aspects of yourself you judge, reject, or fear. These may include anger, envy, selfishness, or vulnerability. The shadow is not inherently negative. It is simply the part of your personality that has been suppressed because it was deemed unacceptable. By confronting it, you begin to reclaim the energy that was trapped in denial. Anger can become a tool, or setting boundaries. Fear can become awareness and prudence. Sadness can develop into empathy and depth. Each shadow aspect, once acknowledged, can be transformed into a source of strength rather than a source of suffering. The confrontation process can feel like an internal dialogue between the self you have presented to the world and the hidden self you are discovering. There may be resistance at first, fear, denial, or rationalization, as the conscious mind struggles to reconcile with the truths that emerge. However, with persistence and mindfulness, these moments of tension become opportunities for profound self-understanding. You begin to see that the qualities you have resisted in yourself are not threats but guides pointing toward the wholeness that lies beyond fear and denial. Emotion plays a central role in confrontation. The feelings that arise when you face your hidden self are not obstacles, they are information. Every reaction, every discomfort, every surge of resistance is an indicator of where attention is needed. By observing these emotions without judgment, you learn to separate your true self from habitual reactions. You develop a capacity to respond consciously rather than react impulsively. This emotional intelligence is a key bridge to integration, the next stage of the journey. Confrontation also deepens self-compassion. As you meet the hidden self, you encounter your mistakes, failures, and weaknesses. Instead of punishing yourself, confrontation invites understanding. You realize that every decision you made, every way you hid parts of yourself, was part of a survival strategy at the time. You were doing the best you could with the awareness you had. This recognition fosters kindness toward yourself and softens inner judgment, preparing you to embrace the shadow fully in the next stage. Finally, confronting the hidden self connects directly to personal empowerment. Awakening opened your eyes. Confrontation gives you agency. By seeing your hidden fears, desires, and patterns, you are no longer a passive participant in your life. You gain insight into why you act, feel, and think the way you do. This insight becomes the foundation for transformation, because once you know the truth of yourself, you can consciously choose how to engage with it. Confrontation transforms passive awareness into active responsibility, creating the conduit, ions for integration, empowerment, and ultimately, the realization of the hidden self's gift. In essence, confrontation is the courageous act of facing your inner reality. It is a meeting with yourself in your entirety, the light, the shadow, the wounded, and the wise. It is the acknowledgement that the hidden self is not a threat, but an essential guide to authenticity and wholeness. Without this confrontation, the journey stalls, the hidden self remains unconscious, and the energy trapped in denial continues to shape your life unconsciously. Confrontation, therefore, is the bridge from awakening to integration, transforming awareness into actionable insight, and preparing you to embrace the full spectrum of who you truly are. Embracing the shadow with compassion is the third step in this journey, naturally emerging from confrontation. Once you have faced the hidden self and observed the repressed, denied, or feared aspects of your personality, the next essential movement is acceptance, a deep, compassionate acknowledgement of what you once rejected. The shadow, as Carl Jung described it, is not evil or dangerous. It is simply the unconscious part of the self that has been pushed away because it was uncomfortable, unfamiliar, or socially unacceptable. To embrace it is to stop resisting it, to stop judging it, and to start seeing it as an integral part of your wholeness. This is a subtle but transformative shift. What was once a source of fear or shame becomes a reservoir of strength, creativity, and authenticity. Compassion is the key. You cannot integrate what you hate or fear. You can only integrate what you accept. When confronting the hidden self, you may have felt fear, guilt, or aversion towards certain thoughts, emotions, or impulses. These reactions are natural, but embracing the shadow requires turning toward them with a gentleness that acknowledges their humanity. For example, anger that was once suppressed can reveal your unmet needs or your courage to protect boundaries. Jealousy can uncover desires that have been denied or undervalued. Fear can guide you toward awareness of your vulnerabilities, inviting care and attentiveness. Each shadow aspect, once embraced, becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. This stage is intimately connected to the previous step, confrontation. Confrontation is the act of seeing the shadow clearly. Embracing the shadow is the act of feeling it without resistance. It is one thing to acknowledge a part of yourself. It is another to accept it with kindness and understanding. When you meet your hidden fears and flaws without judgment, the energy that was once fragmented or blocked begins to flow. This compassionate embrace creates the foundation for integration because only what is accepted can be unified with the conscious self. Resistance, denial, or repression keeps the shadow locked in the unconscious, draining energy and limiting growth. Embracing the shadow also transforms your emotional landscape. Instead of running from uncomfortable feelings or projecting them onto others, you begin to hold them within awareness. Sadness, anger, fear, and desire are no longer enemies but signals and teachers. You start to see patterns in your reactions, understanding how past experiences shaped your behavior and beliefs. This understanding fosters emotional maturity. You become less reactive because you are no longer ruled by the unconscious parts of yourself. You respond instead of react, guided by awareness and compassion. Another aspect of embracing the shadow is the recognition that every quality, even those previously judged as negative, carries potential for growth. Suppressed assertiveness can become healthy confidence. Hidden creativity can become authentic expression. Repressed ambition can become purposeful action. By embracing what you once denied, you reclaim energy that was locked in avoidance or shame. The shadow ceases to be a source of inner conflict and becomes a source of personal power. Jung referred to this process as turning the dark into gold, transforming the energy of repression into conscious strength. Embracing the shadow also deepens your relationship with yourself. Before this stage, parts of your psyche were alienated, hidden, or judged. Now, you begin to live in dialogue with these aspects. You listen to their messages, you understand their needs, and you allow them to coexist with the parts of yourself that are already conscious. This fosters a sense of wholeness and inner harmony. You are no longer fragmented into the self you show the world and the self you hide. Instead, you begin to inhabit a more complete, integrated self. Furthermore, embracing the shadow cultivates empathy and understanding toward others. When you recognize the struggles, desires, and fears within yourself, you can recognize them in others without judgment. You understand that everyone carries hidden parts, and that people's actions are often influenced by what they have not yet faced or integrated. This awareness fosters patience, compassion, and deeper connection, enhancing your relationships. The shadow, once a source of personal shame or fear, becomes a bridge to connection and understanding. This stage naturally leads to integration, the next step in the journey. By embracing the shadow with compassion, you prepare the ground for uniting these formerly divided aspects of the self into a harmonious whole. Acceptance dissolves inner resistance, allowing formerly hidden or rejected parts to be consciously included in your identity. Integration is not forced. It arises as a natural consequence of compassionate recognition. The shadow is no longer an external opponent to be battled. It is now a partner in the co-creation of your authentic life. In essence, embracing the shadow with compassion is about saying yes to your full humanity. It is about seeing yourself as complex, contradictory, and evolving, and treating yourself with the same kindness you offer a friend. This step transforms fear into understanding, resistance into acceptance, and division into wholeness. It is the point where inner conflict begins to soften, where the hidden self is no longer feared but honored. Through this embrace, you reclaim the energy of your life that was locked in denial, preparing yourself for integration, empowerment, and the ultimate realization of your true self. Integration, uniting the opposites within, is the fourth step in the journey, flowing naturally from embracing the shadow with compassion. Once you have faced your hidden self and accepted the shadow with kindness, the next transformative process is to bring all these aspects into conscious harmony. Integration is not about eliminating contradictions or forcing coherence. It is about allowing the diverse elements of your personality, the light and the dark, the rational and the emotional, the strong and the vulnerable, to coexist and interact consciously. Carl Jung referred to this process as individuation, the journey toward becoming a complete whole self, in which each part of the psyche is acknowledged, honored, and included, rather than denied or suppressed. This stage is deeply connected to the previous one because acceptance is the gateway to unity. Embracing the shadow allows the energy trapped in repression, fear, or shame to flow freely into consciousness. Integration takes this liberated energy and consciously arranges it into a coherent inner structure, where no part of yourself is treated as alien or unworthy. The anger that was once feared becomes a tool for setting boundaries. The vulnerability that was once hidden becomes a source of authenticity. The creativity that was suppressed becomes expression. Integration is the alchemy of turning the fragmented self into a dynamic whole, where each aspect contributes to the richness of your being. During integration, you begin to notice a shift in your perception of self. The conflicts that once drained you, indecision, self-criticism, inner tension, begin to dissolve because you are no longer living in opposition to yourself. Your previously divided self, the persona that functioned in the world, and the hidden self that remained, unconscious, begins to communicate and collaborate. You start making choices that honor your full range of needs, desires, and capabilities. Life no longer feels a constant struggle between opposing impulses. It becomes a field of conscious energy where you direct your actions intentionally rather than reactively. Integration also fosters emotional intelligence and resilience. As you unite the opposites within, you learn to hold conflicting emotions without being overwhelmed. Sadness and joy, fear and courage, vulnerability and strength, all can exist simultaneously without causing inner chaos. This ability to embrace complexity allows you to respond to life more effectively. You no longer feel fragmented or at war with yourself. Instead, you operate from a center of balance. Your emotional responses are informed by awareness, and your actions are guided by the full spectrum of your inner experience. Another critical aspect of integration is the awakening of creativity and authentic self-expression. When previously repressed aspects of yourself are acknowledged and harmonized, the energy once used for defense or suppression becomes available for creation. You may find yourself drawn to artistic endeavors, innovative problem-solving, or meaningful personal projects. Your life begins to reflect the depth and richness of your integrated SE. And your choices align more closely with your true purpose, rather than external expectations. This stage transforms potential into action, making the hidden self not only known but alive in your daily existence. Integration also strengthens the relationship between your conscious mind and unconscious wisdom. The unconscious no longer operates as a hidden disruptive force, but as a source of insight, intuition, and guidance. You begin to recognize the patterns and symbols that emerge in your dreams, thoughts, and emotions, understanding them as communications from the deeper self. This ongoing dialogue allows you to navigate life with more clarity and foresight. Integration, therefore, is not a one-time achievement, but a continuous process of aligning consciousness with the full depth of the psyche. Importantly, integration does not eliminate challenges. Life will still present difficulties, conflicts, and uncertainties. But now you face them with greater coherence and presence. The internal battles that once mirrored external struggles diminish because your inner world is no longer divided. You act with intention rather than reaction, drawing on the full spectrum of your inner resources. Integration is the bridge from awareness and acceptance to empowerment, where the inner harmony you cultivate becomes a source of strength and effectiveness in the outer world. Integration also deepens self-compassion and understanding. As the opposites unite, you recognize that every part of yourself, even those once judged as flaws or weaknesses, has value and purpose. You learn to treat yourself with the same respect and care that you extend to others. The previously hidden self becomes a trusted companion, providing insight, motivation, and balance. This internal wholeness fosters confidence and authenticity, creating a foundation for living life in alignment with your deepest truths. In essence, integration is the stage where self-awareness becomes self-mastery. It is the process of bringing the hidden and conscious parts of yourself into dialogue, resolving inner conflict, and channeling your energy toward growth and purposeful action. By uniting the opposites within, you transform fragmentation into wholeness, preparing the ground for the next stage, empowerment. Through integration, you realize that the hidden self is not a distant mystery, but a living, active partner in your life. The energy you once feared now supports your creativity, resilience, and authentic expression, making you ready to step fully into your power and presence in the world. Empowerment through authentic expression is the fifth step in the journey, emerging naturally from the process of integration. Once you have embraced your shadow and united the opposites within, you are no longer fragmented or divided. Your inner energy flows freely, and you are able to act from a place of conscious alignment with your true self. Empowerment is not about control over others or external circumstances, but about mastery of the self, the ability to act, speak, and create in ways that reflect your authentic identity. It is the stage where the hidden self, once silent or suppressed, begins to guide your actions, infusing your life with purpose, clarity, and confidence. This step is deeply connected to integration because the unity achieved in the previous stage provides the foundation for conscious choice. When your internal conflicts are resolved, and your diverse qualities harmonized, you have access to a reservoir of energy that was previously scattered or blocked. You can now use this energy intentionally, making decisions that honor your values, desires, and innate abilities. Empowerment emerges as a natural consequence of inner coherence. When you are whole within, your actions in the world become both powerful and authentic. Authentic expression is the hallmark of this stage. No longer constrained by fear of judgment or the need to conform, you communicate your truth openly and creatively. Your voice, literally and metaphorically, carries the authority of self-knowledge. You express your ideas, feelings, and talents not to please others, but because it is an extension of your being. This authenticity transforms relationships, work, and creative pursuits. People respond not just to what you say or do, but to the alignment and integrity they sense within you. Your life begins to reflect the essence of your hidden self, now integrated and empowered. Emotional freedom is another aspect of empowerment. With integration, you have learned to hold contradictory emotions without being overwhelmed, and now you can channel them into purposeful action. Anger becomes assertiveness. Fear becomes discernment. Vulnerability becomes intimacy, and passion becomes creativity. These transformed energies no longer hinder you. They enhance your ability to navigate life with clarity and courage. Empowerment, therefore, is the conscious use of your internal resources to live fully and intentionally. Empowerment also strengthens your sense of responsibility. Because you act from your authentic self, you recognize that your choices matter. Your influence in the world grows naturally, not through dominance, but through presence and example. By embodying your integrated self, you inspire others to explore and express their own hidden potential. This ripple effect transforms empowerment into a force for connection, contribution, and collective growth. You realize that true power lies not in control, but in alignment with the fullness of your being. This stage naturally leads toward the final step, realizing the gift of the hidden self. Empowerment prepares you to step into life fully, carrying the lessons of awakening, confrontation, shadow embrace, and integration into every action. You have reclaimed the energy that was once lost to fear or denial, and you now use it consciously to shape your life in ways that honor your inner truth. The hidden self, distant or unconscious, has become a guiding presence that informs your decisions, nurtures your creativity, and strengthens your resilience. In essence, empowerment through authentic expression is the manifestation of inner wholeness in the outer world. It is the stage where knowledge, awareness, and acceptance are transformed into action and presence. By expressing your true self with courage, clarity, and compassion, you demonstrate the power of the hidden self made conscious. This stage sets the stage for the ultimate realization, the gift of the hidden self, where the journey comes full circle and your inner transformation becomes a source of lasting fulfillment and wisdom. The gift of wholeness. Returning home to the self is the sixth and final step in the journey, the culmination of awakening, confrontation, shadow embrace, integration, and empowerment. It is the stage where the hidden self, once unconscious and fragmented, is fully realized and recognized as a source of profound inner wisdom and fulfillment. This gift is not something external or material. It is the discovery of the completeness and depth that has always existed within you. Through this process, you come to understand that every experience, every challenge, and every part of your personality, light and shadow alike, has been a guide, leading you to this moment of self-recognition and harmony. This stage is intimately connected to empowerment. While empowerment allowed you to act and express yourself authentically, the gift of wholeness is the internal state from which such action naturally flows. In this state, there is no longer a need to prove yourself or chase validation because your sense of being is secure and complete. The hidden self, now fully integrated and empowered, functions as a wise and compassionate presence within you, guiding decisions, inspiring creativity, and offering calm resilience in the face of life's uncertainties. You move through the world not from fear or fragmentation, but from alignment with the totality of who you are. Wholeness brings a profound sense of inner peace. The conflicts that once troubled you, between light and dark, strength and vulnerability, desire and fear, have been harmonized. You no longer experience internal division. Instead, you perceive yourself as a coherent and dynamic whole. This coherence translates into a deep confide, that does not need external validation, a clarity that allows you to navigate challenges with grace, and a compassion that flows naturally toward yourself and others. The hidden self, once hidden, has become a foundation for wisdom, courage, and understanding. At this stage, life itself feels infused with meaning. The patterns and events that once seemed random or burdensome now appear as essential elements of your personal evolution. Losses, failures, and suffering are no longer merely painful. They are teachers, revealing truths about your resilience, desires, and capacities. Successes and joys are experienced not as fleeting achievements, but as reflections of your authentic alignment. You see that every element of your life, both external circumstances and internal experiences, has contributed to the unfolding of your hidden self and the realization of your wholeness. Wholeness also deepens your relationships and your interaction with the world. When you recognize and accept all aspects of yourself, you are able to recognize and accept others more fully. Empathy, patience, and understanding become natural responses because you are no longer projecting your unintegrated fear, or judgments onto others. You engage with the world from a place of completeness rather than lack, offering presence, authenticity, and groundedness. The gift of the hidden self, therefore, extends beyond the personal. It becomes a source of positive influence and connection in the wider world. This stage also reveals the timeless truth that the hidden self was never truly lost or hidden. It was always present, patiently waiting for recognition, awakening, confrontation, shadow embrace, integration, and empowerment are the steps required to uncover it, reclaim its energy, and live in alignment with it. In doing so, you discover that the hidden self's ultimate gift is not a skill, achievement, or external reward, but the profound realization of your own depth, wholeness, and authenticity. Are finally at home within yourself. The gift of wholeness is marked by freedom. Freedom from inner conflict, freedom from the compulsion to conform, and freedom from the fear of judgment. You no longer need to hide parts of yourself or seek fulfillment outside yourself. You live as a complete being, fully present, fully aware, and fully responsible for your life. This state of being is the essence of what Jung described as individuation. The full realization of the self, where conscious and unconscious, light and shadow are harmonized and aligned. In essence, the gift of the hidden self is the culmination of the journey, the awakening to your depth, the courageous confrontation of what was hidden, the compassionate embrace of your shadow, the integration of opposites, and the empowerment to act authentically. It is the profound sense that all aspects of your being, your fears, desires, strengths, and vulnerabilities, are not obstacles but integral parts of your wholeness. When you return home to yourself, you realize that the journey was never about becoming someone else. It was about uncovering who you have always been. The hidden self, once obscured, is now a living, guiding, and empowering presence, offering the ultimate gift of fulfillment, authenticity, and inner peace.